Sup aficionados, this is your editor-in-chief speaking. We have an amazing interview here with the team from Body of Our Own. And I won't spoil too much of the interview generally, but what I will say is we had a little bit of a cut-off at the end. So if you want to read the end of the interview, you can find it on the website written up as a transcript, obscurae.co.uk. Otherwise, enjoy.
Thanks for watching the film, Holly. Like, it means a lot.
It was awesome. This film has been 7 years in the making. How have you guys evolved as filmmakers and your perspective on the topic and the way you wanted to capture the image? Was it different when you started to how it ended up?
Do you want to start, Leo, as a filmmaker?
Yeah, sure. So I've been making films since I was like 15. My evolution has gone in like so many different places, but over this period, I'd say like this film as a filmmaker is like the most beautiful, powerful film that I've ever made. And I think as a filmmaker, what the film has taught me, and working particularly with Ray, is like the ethics behind filmmaking and how to like safeguard like your contributors or your characters, and how to respect their autonomy, and then also just to be quite loose in your like approach, and just allowing like what comes because you can never plan a day on the shoot. So just being very guerrilla. Yeah. And then the film, actually, like the intentions have always been the same. It's just the approach become more flexible and loose and intimate. Cool. Yeah, so go for it, Ray.
Yeah, no, for me, over the years, I mean, to be honest, I started off as a fashion designer when I first met Lily, even when this film was incepted in 2019. Well, to be honest, I still consider myself in fashion. And so I would say the project has kind of made me like really believe that I'm a filmmaker and really feel that. And I think over the scope of like the 7 years and like the way Lily was saying, like us continuously collaborating, like I learned how to do sound, and the sound that people are watching in the film is sound that I recorded. Like what we shot, we kind of like spoke about together, like what's going to tell a good story. I think I really learned, and obviously fashion is so known for this, like the story building, so the world building and the storytelling. Let's try and say them both at the same time, but all of that, but then specifically also the ethics of fashion is always seen on, and I critique it a lot through my own platform. So then it kind of felt natural, like the way this was, like it kind of felt natural that I was critiquing film at the same time. Like, why are we doing it like this if that doesn't benefit us or the subject? The subject should be everything. Like all of these like quite big ethical questions has always kept coming up, and we just kept evolving the film with that. And I think where I'm lucky is that I basically got to do a film degree over over film, and to be honest, that's exactly how it feels. It feels like as if I've graduated film school, and now I like understand the basics, and now it's time for me to kind of like, as a young student, like, or film now, to keep moving. And that's how the last 7 years feel for me. So today feels quite monumentous. I was like, okay, cool.
Very, very hard crash course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quicker and cheaper than university, I think. Pros and
But
cons.
I mean, I will say it's so funny because there was a little period when when both me and Lily were making the film, maybe like 2020 or 2019, where we were like, oh my god, we're gonna go to NFTS. Like both of us did like did our little thing. But I think what was really good is that a lot of the people that we spoke to had gone to film school had always been like, no, we learned the most on set. Like we learned doing it, and we were just like, okay, this is fab, because then actually. And to do it in South Asia, like most of the time we spent in Bangladesh, so it like all over South Asia was just like insane.
Awesome. So the short documentary I felt explores that kind of balance between freedom and expression, and also this fight to be like welcome and accepted the way they want to. How obviously that provides for very vulnerable filming, very vulnerable like aspects to include. How did you navigate this with the three women?
So for us, we kind of initially had always critiqued documentary filmmaking, but specifically documentary filmmaking around trans communities and queer communities and South Asian communities, and specifically from a British lens or a white or a Western lens. And so for us, what we learned through that critique is a lot of care wasn't always given to the subjects. the documentary has really rigid lines of like, don't over familiarize yourself with the subjects, you know, be objective, be all of these things. And for us, initially we did start off like that, but then once you see someone's heart, like, and you really become their friend, I think a lot of that closeness and that intimacy that you see on camera is all genuine. Like, there would be, imagine if there's like a 12-hour day where me and Lily are out, maybe 3 of those hours we're filming, the rest of it, to be honest, which there is a lot of that on our social media, we would like sit around with them, eat with them. And like Momo lived in this house with like loads of other neighbors. We actually just, and they had such cute kids who we missed them. So like we would just play with the kids, we would take them to the shops, so like we really immersed ourselves as people in their lives but it wasn't like we were doing that because we were like, oh, then we're going to get some exclusive content. It just felt genuine. It just like they were being receptive to it, but then also they were giving back to us. Like they would give us gifts all the time, and we would give them gifts, and we would hug, and it felt like being with like girlfriends. And I think that's what so like platonic girlfriends, not like just
Yeah.
like but like for us, that's why I think the film feels so different, is because that intimacy that you were speaking about is real. Like, to be honest, I text them all this morning to be like, hey, we're going to the film screening to eat. If you want to send me a little video that I potentially could show someone. So it's that thing of like that connection is it feels real.
Yeah, I think also the fact, like, going back to, like, I mean, Ray haven't had formal training in filmmaking. I mean, I didn't do film school. I went to art school, and so I think that had a benefit because we had no like formal structures in place, and we very much have always been quite like independent in the way in our practices anyway, and like never really like followed like rules. So I think that there was never like we must shoot it like this, and the interviewer must be that like that. It was very much like I'll be like holding the camera and then also like chatting to them at the same time, or like laughing, and Ray will be chatting to them. So it's almost like they forget about the camera. Yeah, we explained everything really carefully. So we explained where the film's going and everything. So it's not like we were, invading spaces. Like, but yeah, I think that's basically what I was going to say.
Actually, was just going to add one thing, which I think from all the interviews I've listened to other directors, one thing that both myself and Lily made this probably a little bit harder than it could have been is how strict we were around the ethics of it. So imagine if this is the frame and there was just a whisper of a man in the background, we would go and get a consent form for that man. And we would like, and we had this like incredible lawyer who kind of like gave us really good advice about like if in places where it's where time isn't of the essence and maybe language isn't the best thing, just get them to video record like a consent form. So we have so many of these, and it's so funny because for us, we were just doing it because we felt like that's the right thing to do. We watch so many documentaries where the subjects aren't always consenting to be in them, and that caveat on top of everything that else that Lily just said, where we were just still learning it. To be honest, a lot of people when we first met them and we were like, yeah, we want to do it. We were so strict with these like codes of conduct that we wanted to follow, and then also how we wanted to film it. It was a big ask, but I'm glad we got here. We did it.
Worth
And
it.
always, yeah. And I feel like it acts as almost like we both were taking a risk to see if films like this could be made, and this sits as now a testament to both myself and to that actually no, people can be ethical while they're making film. People can consider the subject's voice in the edit. They can, like, these are all things that can be done. So now when I don't see it in the industry, I'm going to be like, well, I've done it, why haven't you?
What did this topic teach you about the trans community in South Asia, and why did it demonstrate the importance of being educated?
Ray, you go first.
So for us, to be honest, from the very beginning, the inception of the film kind of came from this altercation where I was robbed by a group of Hijra trans women when I was in South Asia. But I think the way that it's evolved is over the 7 years, we've seen how trans law and trans legislation around the world is just decreasing. Like, it's actually quite sad to see it kind of go back in time. And where South Asia's been so historically known for pioneering trans culture. Like from it's like thousands of years old. It's documented thousands of years old. It's in paintings. It's in all of these things. And to now hear the government kind of like try to redefine what transgender means to just these very strict historical cultural ideas is kind of what the film is also trying to speak about. Is this idea of like this globalization, the idea of a new language being explored. Like the word like transgender is not something that's written in Sanskrit scriptures, but the word Hijra is, and Kinna is, and that kind of balance between modernity and heritage is probably not all of the trans issues in the world, but it's like you're fighting against this, like trying to move forward, and this past that's kind of holding everybody down, or this idea of a past. So to be honest, like that kind of is where the film sits, and we really hope that when people watch the film they leave with these questions. Oh, the world is kind of going like this, but if I see the humanity of a trans person, do I see more of myself in them? Like how small is the space between me and them? And obviously their lives can be quite harrowing, and yeah, we just hope it helps people contextualize where they sit in society in the bigger picture and where we sit in that. And specifically around trans rights, I just don't think it's going to get better, which is why I think cinema, film, media, journalism, everything is our job as artists and makers and creatives to kind of push the world forward again, but in a very human way, in a way that we're not only speaking to our echo chambers, because I think a lot of us are so used to just only speaking to like trans activists or queer activists and, all of this stuff. And actually, no, we need to actually be speaking with the fascists. We need to speak with the far right. We need to get them to have empathy like the way that we do. And how can we do that? And I think for us, obviously, cinema is the best way right now, but obviously there's so many other ways.
I mean, for me coming in, I didn't really have like too many preconceptions. It was always like I read a bit before, it was never like I never intellectualized to the community. And also I think not growing up in South Asia, not growing up with any of the myth or the stereotypes, I came in completely raw. And I think that the women felt that in some capacities, and with Ray as well. So there was kind of like, it was already quite like a comfortable feeling, and there was no judgment, and so I hope in the film you can see that like it was very like much a friendship that it built, because for me it just felt like I was like hanging out with three girls, three mates in the room, but I think I came from like quite a sheltered background in like the countryside, and like I hadn't really ever met a trans woman before, and so it was like amazing to like learn about them and have them as friends as well. So yeah, I think for me, I literally was learning about the trans experience from like zero. I felt very lucky to have to learn from them firsthand, really.
One of the first points that stuck with me from the film made, that is, visibility doesn't equal safety. So what do you want the audience to like understand from this, and what does that mean to you?
Go for it, Ray.
So for us, so we didn't have, to us, so we've had multiple edits of this film, and initially did start off in a very similar way, like the way we are, kind of like quite activist, with it really with a call to action. And the way that we've edited it now is that it's actually a lot more human, and actually we want people to kind of leave with questions, but rather let those questions lead them into more information. Like, I just have this vision of just like this dad falling into one of our screenings, watching this film, going to the pub and having a conversation about this like trans film that he can't really figure out with his friends, and just being like, what does that mean? And someone at the table Google, what does that mean? And then for me, I think that's what I'm really hoping the film does. And rather than us saying like, this is trans and this is Hijra and this is South Asia, this is what the intersections look like, we're hoping that their lived experience of like somebody following them as they argue with their parents, as they, which we all do, as they, fall in love, and then obviously we watch that love kind of dismantle, like as we all want to have a partner, and a lot of us have similar dreams, and we're just hoping that people see just a bit of themselves in these characters in order to kind of learn something. I mean I say that while I've done exactly the same thing like before, like Lily was saying, that so when we first started filming, I'd just come out to my family, and it went, to be honest, in a very similar way like the Girls' Lights had. I was completely ostracized from my family. It was like a horrible time, but I found so much healing being around these women. Like I saw so much of both of our struggle, which was we were both ostracized from, we were all ostracized from our family because of a life choice that we don't feel like we had chosen. It was given to us and we're living out. And that comes with its all of its dichotomies. And we would speak about family all the time. And I just think the way that both me and Lily have kind of learned so much from them being on set with, or when we're not on set, but like kind of like living life with them, I feel like a lot of the viewers can kind of do the same. And we really try to feel that kind of like that energy on the lens in the way that we edit it. So then when you're sat there, you feel that warmth, that passion, that drive that these women have, because there is so much love that they have but that the world just doesn't show back to them, and which is so sad. And but also there's the other side, which is, while it is sad, they live phenomenal lives. Like they're phenomenal. They're like really fabulous, and they are really fun and kind. And yeah.
So, with the rise of a digital age becoming more evident, how do you see this shaping the image and the lives of marginalized communities like this one?
I think that what we kind of feel, and actually watching, like, what I love about Diet Parata's account is you're kind of seeing these pockets into, you know, quite rural villages in India or in Pakistan, and you're seeing these amazing, like, there's a little group of dancers that, you know, go viral, or like an amazing singer that goes viral, and they're just using their phone to kind of document this, and then they're having this huge exposure. And I feel like with the Hijra community, some of these women are using that to kind of combat their stigmas, but also assimilate into like the capitalist world by making money in from it. And I like, a lot of people are very negative about social media, but in that capacity, I'm like really happy to see the kind of social mobility happening and more democracy in the way that voices get to contribute to what they want and say what they want from the world. At the same time, you know, it also draws attention onto the community, and with the rise of the far right, you know, they're like leveraging that to combat the left and combat the community, and kind of, you know, what the far right often do is they take a clip out of context and they warp it and they use it as evidence to, you know, grow their points. But the main thing that I'm really happy to see is this kind of this progression of social mobility happening where all kinds of people are kind of becoming to the forefront.
Mm. Yeah, I was just going to add to that and just say, because historically the Hijra community have always lived in almost like a very hierarchical system, and that's been very rigid and almost very separate to society. And then kind of like very similar to what Lily was saying, is that the idea of globalization, the idea of social media, been giving these women like access to money that they don't have to give to a hierarchical system, that they get to keep for themselves, that they get to grow their influence. Some of them and to be honest, through that influence and that money that they're making, because obviously TikTok will kind of pay you in pounds, but like it translates to a lot in South Asia for a lot of these viral stars. And what's really fab is seeing them gain so much influence that some of them are in politics, some of them are really waving to become really ambassadors and activists. Because then what social media done and what globalization has really done is allowed them to have a playing field in what their lives look like. And that for me is like the icing on the cake. Because it was so funny, because we were like, I think about 2 years ago, the angle of the film was going to be around this movement, which like ourselves and Diet Prada kind of called Hijra Talk, because we were like, there wasn't a name for it. It was just this like underbelly of like all these videos on TikTok, which I love and I watched because they're so fabulous. But it's like, but they're amassing views that make like Kylie Jenner views look like child's play. Like there's this one girl who's wears all gold and she's got 21 million views on this one video, and she's not doing anything. She's just literally sat there looking beautiful. And but the thing is, I love that, and I was like, yeah, 100%. And how much money is she gonna make for? And obviously, pretty much all of her videos are viral, and she'll go dancing, she'll go walking. But I think what it's allowed is that every now and then you watch her do a video, like the elections were coming up in South Asia, well, to be honest, in multiple South Asian countries. And I watched on Hijra Talk as some of these influencers were now doing like collab videos with politicians, and I was like, but like the politicians who are looking after trans rights. And I love that, because it just reminded me of like the New York mayor Mamdani, as he was kind of doing these things, going to like the queer community, the black community. I was like, oh my God, this is fab, because obviously the trans and Hijra community haven't always had a say in how their lives play out in South Asia. And I'm really glad that we got to see it. And obviously in the film, we have this one line from Momo where she just says, I want to establish myself, whether it's on TV, whether it's on screen, whether it's on media. And we're like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Who does it? Who in today's world isn't trying to say that? And I'm just like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what the thing is.
Everybody wants those TikTok views. It's honest.
Yeah, I know. I wish I had 21 million from just wearing gold.
I know. If I could just sit there and get that, then my life would be so different. As you just mentioned, Momo finds herself, her element, and like her meaning through performance. And how do you think performance functions to protect and empower who she is?
Go for it, Ray.
Yeah, so what we found, and actually historically and academically is documented, is that the Hijra community and dance and singing and the arts, so to be honest, that wide spectrum of the arts is so well documented. So for us, when we saw them obviously when we started filming in 2019, that wasn't going to change from like 1860. But so like that history of that dance, the percussion, the movement, the dressing up, the performance is so integral to the way trans women live in South Asia, but specifically trans women who are assigned or aligned with Hijra culture. So that was always going to be there. I think what was really incredible was seeing it evolve over the 7 years we were filming. Because on our first day on set, Jannat and Momo used to live together, and they were practicing for this rehearsal. But it was like traditional, well, it wasn't traditional, but it was like Bollywood music. They were wearing like, all of the traditional attire in like almost like bridal and South Asian clothing. But then in 2024, when we saw Jannat and we saw Momo, their tastes evolved. And I think because of that, like globalization, the idea of they can kind of be anyone, that same camaraderie of like singing and dancing is still there, but they're doing it to like a YouTube mix that they actually listen to, which is like a techno mix of like a Bollywood song mixed with like all of these other accents. And now they're doing these performances to this. And I just think what's really exciting is how fast that can evolve. And obviously through them, we also met like this new wave of young culture, which is like non-binary Hijra children, or like in their community. And I'm like, I wonder what they're gonna do with fragments of history, with these really like heavy heritage things. And I think that's what's really exciting about it, is that singing, that dancing will always be there, but the evolution of that is incredible. Because I think singing, dancing, painting, all that stuff, it's so much within South Asian, like it's just so within us. And obviously, like, it's so funny, the other day I was in the VNA, and they also have paintings of some of those very original old Mughal paintings where trans women used to be painters. They used to make tiles. They used to make the Queen's harem really pretty. And I went to just go see them, and they're so beautiful. And I'm just like, we need to help our trans brothers and sisters kind of go back to that space where they're so highly valued that we would give them something as amazing as like paint and put them up on our walls. Whereas, now we're in this space.
What kind of world do you hope this film makes possible?
Do you want to go first, Leon?
Yeah, I think what I would love to see is, because, going on from Ray's point, I think that sometimes it can feel like, I noticed in the Hijra community, that like you're either a dancer and you're a performer, or you kind of fall into like Hijra-giri, which is like traditional Hijra practices of blessing babies and stuff. I would love to see Hijra who aren't talented in performance being able to apply for jobs and university and schools in any practice or any subject that they want,